Apex Apes back in your life, episode 7. Today we have a returning guest, the Renaissance manly man, Francis Magbitang.
I'm just here to fill up Jarek's chair.
And today to grace us with our presence, with his presence, Doc J. Lopez of RX Fitness. Thank you. Did I get that right? Thank you for being
RX Strength.
RX Strength.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Pleasure.
Francis actually speaks very highly of you. You are his go-to person for all things working out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Actually, as I mentioned last week, I did all my multi-sports before I was relatively
Let's go through it again.
Well,
There's hiking, mountain climbing. Those are two different things.
Yes.
There's jiu-jitsu. There's American football.
Yes.
And then
I also
there's
run.
strength training. He runs.
Yeah. All those sports before I even started, taking Doc J as my physical trainer, I was injured almost, every month. Right? He's been.
And these were reoccurring injuries, not major injuries.
It was
just
some major
nicks and bumps.
No, there were nicks and bumps, major injuries, and recurring injuries all at the same time. Right? When I started training with him, mostly the recurring injuries almost disappeared on me. Because the major injuries, that was my fault. I got run over by a motorcycle. Oh no! you can't really injure that, right?
Wow. You got run over by a motorcycle.
Yeah.
While crossing the street.
Well, I was in a tricycle. Let's not talk about that anymore. I don't want to go back to that time in my life anymore.
Oh wow, that's an amazing experience.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Renaissance man.
Yeah, Renaissance.
Yeah, no, you survived a wreck. That's amazing. So when Francis first went to you, Doc, was it how did you make an assessment? How did you know how to train Francis? Did he come to you with a goal? Or did he just say, work your magic, sir?
Should I be really honest with that?
Yeah,
this guy,
be honest, sir.
When he first started coming to me, he had his goals in mind. And his goals were always changing. So I told him, you know what, stop with the training ADHD and tell me what is really important to you. So he tells me what's important to him, right? And then, of course, in any thorough assessment that I would do with anyone, the first thing I would look for is, are there any pre-existing conditions I should be aware of? Meaning, if you want to train a certain way, I have to get certain hindrances out of the way. One, do you have a clinical condition I should know about? Second, do you have any existing injuries I should know about? Third, I have to see you move. I mean, really move. I don't care about your ability to lift a car or to push someone off with one hand. No. I have to see things. Very simple things like if I ask you to bend down to pick something. How does your ankle joint work in relation to your knee joint, to your hip joint? Things like that. So I would look at Francis, and to be honest, he was the biggest klutz in the world.
Because I was coming from the notion of everything I see in TV before, what I watch in the commercials and the other advice I get from just the mainstream. I had no idea what he was talking about.
The weeder stream.
Yeah, wider stream, whatever you may call it.
Nothing wrong with that, but like I said, you have to tailor things individually, and we're all not created equally. Yes. Super not created equally. So
it's funny that you mentioned you need to watch the way he moves, and that's probably the most important thing to start assessing someone, right? There's this particular strength coach named Kelly Starrett, right? He wrote this book called Becoming a Supple Leopard, and one of his
I haven't read that book.
Yeah, that's a pretty good book, right? It's a mobility workout of a day. You go through it every day, and then eventually a lot of the imbalances are fixed. But what I found interesting is that when I was listening to an interview about him, he said that when he trains strength coaches. Right? He trains strength coaches to look for something. In particular, strength coaches for the NFL. And what he would do was, he said, the way I would teach them to assess was from the ground up. Meaning, it's not important that they jump the highest. It's not important that they bench the most or the most number of times. What is more important is that when they jump, they land correctly. When they squat correctly. Because what you're looking for, apparently, is total time spent playing. And if an athlete, although very powerful, has a lot of imbalances, then he's injury prone, meaning he won't get a lot of time playing, especially for the NFL. So that blew my mind in terms of assessing client. It's very interesting that that's how you assess. So When Francis came to you, you had him bend over and touch his toes?
I would look at several things because, a background on what I do. Okay, I'm an occupational therapist. Okay, so if people don't know what an occupational therapist does, in the rehabilitation setting, an occupational therapist is different from the physical therapist in the sense that we deal with functional outcome, functional independence. The physical therapist will treat pain, will make sure that a certain level of muscle strength is gained after an injury. After the assessment from the doctor, he says, okay, there's pain. There are strength issues. Okay, the physical therapist or the physiotherapist will deal with that. After that is the functional independence or the functional outcome. I have to be able to now retrain you to do things that apply in real life. Can you dress yourself? Can you bathe yourself? Can you do your tasks, your instrumental activities for daily living, your shopping, your moving, everything? That's all functional. So for you to be able to be, in a way, functionally independent, one of the key things is for you to be able to move properly. And how do you move properly? You have to have certain things to look into. Like posture. You look at posture. You look at how they move in what we call kinetic chains. These are things that you really have to look into, and this will already tell you that, okay, if they can't get by with basic movement properly, if I put you on a field, it's very dynamic. It's going to be very, very different. Whether you're a martial artist and you're going up against an opponent, or I'm running against 15 defensive linemen, and I have to protect my ass, it's going to be very different if you're misaligned, so to speak. Don't think of even getting stronger if you're misaligned. Because then you're going to start, screwing up your kinetic chains, and then you build compensatory patterns. And over the long haul, that's when the wear and tear injuries begin. And then that's it. Career shot.
When you say misaligned, what are you talking about exactly? Are you talking about a spinal alignment, kind of like what the chiropractor fixes? Or are you talking about a muscle imbalance? There
are muscle imbalances. Normally, because I have received postgraduate certification from the National Academy of Sports Medicine. The NASM is a governing body that certifies coaches, like you said, of the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, among other things. So the protocols that you speak about are very familiar with me. These are things that I use when I assess people. And when we talk about imbalances, we look at how they carry out certain movements. An example would be if you make them do a squat. A very common assessment tool we have is the overhead squat. And the overhead squat alone exposes a lot of muscle imbalances.
It's the hardest thing to do.
It's the hardest thing to do, yes. Even without any weight. So, if I can show them, Francis, could you just stand over here?
Yes.
Yeah,
please.
Okay. So, you're facing that camera over there. Okay.
Wait. Why are you turning around?
Microphone off.
Later pa yan, after the show.
Okay. Go to your YMCA position. Show me a Y. Show me a letter Y. Come on. Okay. Up. Arms up.
Coach,
Come on. Cooperate with me. No one wants to check out your ass. Okay. And then we're going to go and squat. Go and squat. Okay. Right. And then go up again. As I'm watching him squat, I'm looking at things. Are his heels going up? Is he bending too much forward? Are his knees caving in? How is his back holding up? Okay, so if I see that there's too much forward lean, there's too much knee collapse coming in.
I'm just going to sit right back.
Too much flexion in the hips. Yes.
Thanks, Francis.
See, that one movement already tells me, oh, there's going to be a lot of imbalances here. And I have to learn how to correct that. You have your tonic muscles, your phasing muscles. You have your stabilization muscles. You have your prime mover muscles. It's a lot of technical jargon. Basically, what I'm saying is your body is a tent. It's like a tent. And if it pulls too much on one side, your tent collapses to one side. And it isn't exactly the most stable structure out there.
One thing I liked about the system in RX Strength and what Doc J taught us before is he actually explains to me the purpose of what he's doing.
Very personable.
Very personable. I just don't enter in it blindly. Which will, if I know what I'm doing and he tells me exactly what the effect will be and what to expect, I'm going to be more willing to do it.
And I'm glad that they ask questions, actually. I don't like, if you feel that you have to ask questions, fine. And if you think that you come across something that I may have missed out on, feel free to correct me. The best professionals grow by acknowledging shortcomings, mistakes. And so maybe they have something that I failed to pick up on. Like anyone, I'm not perfect. I may have studied this long, I may have been practicing long already, but there are still, avenues for improvement.
Always growing,
It's
right?
always
Yes,
growing.
always
And you never stop learning.
Doc J, you mentioned like you prescribe workouts to individuals, tailor fit to their needs. For example, if you prescribe, let's say you did the Derek Ramsey's workout program, and then people see it on Men's Health, and then they follow it. Will they become like Derek Ramsey? Will they get the gains and achieve the physical condition?
The thing is, you have to understand that if you're training under any strength coach for that matter, if you train with me, for example, knowledgeable as I am, competent as I am, I only control anywhere from 3 to 5 hours of your life in a week.
Yeah.
So the rest of the time that you're not with me,
It's on you.
It's on you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So there are three things that a normal person would have to factor in for them to be really successful at getting to their goals. One is their training. The second
Habit.
is their nutrition. And the third is their recovery.
That's cool.
That's a triad.
That's
Okay?
awesome.
So, take away one, the whole structure will collapse. One is not more important than the other. Okay? And many times, people tend to overdo one thing at the expense of the other. Perfect example. In this country, a lot of people will try to do well with their nutrition, maybe go okay with training, but they can't sleep well if it had to save their life. Why? Because it's too much fun to stay up late. Or some people will say, I'd rather avoid the other stuff, but I'm too lazy to train. Okay, then the whole equation collapses. Nullify one, you multiply the rest of it, it still goes back to zero.
Recovery is just as important as the
Oh, very. It's very important.
That's actually one thing I had to learn.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I had to learn that.
Yes, you did.
I had a
That's
very
why on
hard
the
time
show we
learning.
need live examples.
Yeah, live examples.
Yeah, live examples.
One of the main complaints I had before was I didn't want to quit. That's why I got really banged up. I mean, from when Edmund we used to practice like every day.
Yeah.
Plus, in the weekends, I used to do a lot more extreme sports than that. And I still didn't stop till he put his foot down. It's just like you got to recover.
gotta rest.
Yeah. So he just basically said, if you don't try to recover, I'm gonna kick your ass again. So
Yeah, because you see, the thing is, people tend to think that more is better, no pain, no gain. You have to understand that even if you push yourself hard, there is a fine line between giving you the adequate amount of work, the optimal amount of work, versus the excessive already. People cannot draw the fine line in between. It's crazy.
So there's a threshold to your training.
There's a threshold to your training. And for you to be able to sustain certain demands on your body, you have to teach your body how to take these certain demands. I call it prehab. In some cases, other trainers will call it bulletproofing the body. And some people will just simply call it conditioning the body. You plan to abuse the body, teach the body how to be able to take it so that it doesn't break down as much.
that's why a lot of people starts to stop after they work out during a certain period of time. They push themselves too hard. Some of them I see, they get the trauma that it's going to be like this forever, right? Without even
Or they plateau at a certain point.
Or they plateau at a certain point and said, this is it. They don't take into consideration some of the lessons learned. Like for example, recovery is one of the most important things.
No, but a lot of people don't even know about that.
Exactly.
They don't even know
That's
about
the
it.
purpose of...
Actually, they do. The thing is,
They don't wanna listen.
if you're looking at it from a behavioral perspective, when somebody wants to get better at something, if you look at it from a behavioral point of view, there are two things that will have to take place. One is your willingness to learn. For you to be able to progress to something, new stimuli must be added for you to get better. So you try to learn something new. Your willingness to learn is there. Fantastic, it's there. But the second one is what people tend to have a hard time with. You have to have a certain willingness to accept change. So if I want to get better with something, not only will I have to be willing to learn, I have to make some changes. I have to make some sacrifices, which means I will go from doing an exercise I can ace to something I'm going to be very, very clumsy with. An example of this would be, in their case, with people who play basketball, people who play football, and any running sport or any martial art, I introduce them to the concept of working the legs one side at a time. Single leg work.
unilateral work.
And 8 out of 10 people will tell me it's the worst experience of their life.
It's hard.
You know, I've had people call the exercise, those are not split squats, those are not lunges, they're called fuck me's. Because I really feel I'm getting fucked every time. TJ Sulit, if you're watching this is your favorite word, right?
Shout out to TJ.
Yeah, shout out to TJ, yeah. Fuck me's, but that's it. You know, that's the exercise they call. It's very uncomfortable, and some people are not willing to go through the discomfort. But it's the painful experiences that make you grow, right? So you have to go through it sometimes.
There was a period of my time when I was doing fuck me's. Because there was a
I'm not gonna
period
say
where I couldn't squat what I wanted to squat. So I had to separate the work so that the load on my back would be less, right? Which is the general goal of the fuck me. So yeah, they're terrible.
I know.
They're terrible. If anyone knows, it's basically a squat with one leg and the other leg is on top of something, right?
Yeah, basically you're working one leg at a time. You don't share the load. It's an asymmetric.
But this is all body weight, not.
Then you progress to getting stronger. You know that the human body is it adapts, it gets stronger, then you impose new demands on it, so to speak. But you have to learn the concept of learning when to back off as well. Sometimes to take 2 steps forward, you take 1 step back. But some people just like to push the envelope too much. You know, that gung-ho, Spartan. I'm annoyed by I'm annoyed by the whole hashtag beast mode, hashtag no pain, no gain. You know all that.
You know what, this guy.
Hashtag no rest day.
Rest. You know when they talk about
no rest for the
rest.
wicked.
What muscle is that? And how do I work it? Right, Francis?
It was me and Mikey, sir.
Yes.
Hashtag no rest for the
Well,
wicked.
another thing I want to emphasize is the way when people train, if they have a problem, they don't understand something, that's what the trainer's there for. Right?
Absolutely.
Ask. I mean, these things are unfamiliar.
But there are
to
also
certain
muck
people.
trainers, you know, like the ones that just pop out of nowhere, don't really help the client, and it's just there to go through the motion.
Absolutely,
I've seen
absolutely.
101 muck trainers that
Muck trainers,
yeah,
yeah.
10 years. This is their client, still can't do a pull-up. I can't
We've actually encountered a lot of people like that. We really can't tell you how to do. I really can't tell you who the trainer to pick is. Right? I found my trainer. I actually have 2.
This is the trainer to pick.
Yeah, I have Doc J for my strength and conditioning, and si Mark Tumbaga for my kettlebell training in terms of strength and conditioning. Mark Entrada being my jiu-jitsu teachers. I have a lot. But these guys I found because I did the proper amount of research and I asked around. Right? Don't ask the trainer per se. If you guys are looking for a trainer, don't ask the trainer if he's good or not. You
the
ask his
results.
students.
Yeah, the people with
You look at his
results.
students. That's why every time we try getting someone new in RX, if they want to meet the trainer, I tell them, why don't you talk to someone he's trained first? Right? And then talk to him so you could see the actual results.
So for someone like Francis, who is a American football player, jiu-jitsu specialist,
Porn star.
tactical axe bringing, the height
He's
bringing,
never going to let me listen to
bears.
man.
Tactical axe, yeah, okay.
How do you structure his armor building or his bulletproofing? I mean,
just the way I do it for anyone. It basically boils down to if you play a sport, what are the demands of your sport? And then you look at the motions of the sport. What could happen in the worst case scenario? Like if you're talking to a football player, to sum it all up, and many strength coaches in the NFL will agree with me, you have to make your players so resilient that they can survive a car crash. Because that's the amount of tackling they're getting every game. It's the equivalent of a car crash every time. So why NFL players make very good MMA fighters later on, because they can take that much abuse. You know, is it a good way to train? If you can work into it and train like maybe let's say a football player for life, I can tell you be strong. You know, if you do it properly. Is it the only way to get strong? No, but it's a good template to follow. I find. You know, it's a good template to follow among other things. And basically that's it. When you give terms like armor building or hypertrophy, you're just basically saying that you want an individual to build a certain amount of muscle mass. Let's cut away the fancy terminology. You just want a certain level of muscle mass. How much do you need? That depends on what his goal is and what he needs. It's not my job. I can give my suggestions, I can give my input, but at the end of the day, if I think he'll get by with 10, but he wants to put on 20, who am I to argue? That's your goal. and I'll help you best way as I can, to reach that goal. So,
Doc, what's your opinion on gaining? Because I remember growing up, following the Joe Weider paradigm, we would follow this thing called the dirty bulk. Like, eat anything you want, get really big, and then cut down, hopefully retaining the lean muscle mass. Nowadays, people thought about clean gaining, meaning eating the right foods, gaining lean muscle without going through that fat stage that people dread so much, but they have to follow. If they're following a bodybuilding paradigm, what's your take on that, Doc?
My take on the clean bulk is very simple. You eat clean, but still consume the calories that you need, the nutrients that you need to consume to be able to sustain the muscle mass. The one thing that they might fail at is that they're not stimulating the body enough. For you to grow big, you have to impose certain physical demands on your system.
Like stress on your muscles?
Stress on your muscles. So you have very big compound lifts to work with. You have your pushing, your pulling. I'm stating this in terms of movement because all of the exercises that you mentioned will fall under one category or the other of a certain movement. You have pushing, you have pulling, you have hip hinging, you have squatting, you have a single leg. Some people call it single leg, dual leg, quad dominant, hip dominant, many terminologies. Basically, you have to use big movements that work your huge muscle, your huge amounts of muscle inside your body. You train big areas of muscle mass, and you'll be able to get there, and then you consume your calories. The thing is, the human body doesn't like keeping muscle mass. Why? Because it's energy expensive.
Yeah, it is.
So if you don't do anything to your body that says to your brain, I'm putting this in a very layman term, if I don't give my brain any reason to keep my muscle mass, it won't allow it to stay. Which is why when women want to lose weight, they still have to strength train. Because the strength training says, hey, I'm moving heavy stuff. I need to have my lean muscle mass. And if I don't have this, I won't be able to move it.
But that doesn't mean they're going to grow up to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, no. The testosterone pool is just too little for some women.
Yeah, because most of the girls I talk to said, I want to do strength training and weightlifting, but I might become muscular.
Bulky. Exactly, common.
That's a common notion.
Well, there are certain training protocols that are
geared towards
that. But the thing is, again, it boils down to, did you really do a thorough assessment of the individual? And when I say assessment, you have to factor in things like, what's their lifestyle like? Are they career women? Are they full-time moms and career women? Are they childless? Do they participate in a certain sport? Do they have a certain illness we should know about, a medical condition? See, if you fail to ask all the important questions, your ability to get into your goals is just, it's not there. In occupational therapy, we always follow a formula called, when you go for goal setting, we start with a long-term goal and break it down into several short-term goals. That's how we get our goal for our patients. Have one big picture at the end of the tunnel and then map out the small steps to get there. And there are many ways to do it. I can do it in one way, another trainer or therapist can do it another way. Is he right? Am I right? No. It will depend on what works for the individual. As long as the principle is there, the technique that we use may differ. But if the principle follows, it doesn't matter. It has to fit.
Goal setting is really
Goal setting is very important. When you ask people, and this bugs the hell out of me when people come, I said, I want to train. I want to have abs. Really? Can you be a little more specific? Or, I want to be sexy. What's your definition of sexy? Right? You have to give me a template. Do you want to look like Kate Beckinsale? Do you want to look like Jennifer Lopez?
Yeah.
Do you want to look like, let's go local. Do you want to look like Ellen Adarna?
Okay.
Do you want to look like Ann Curtis? I don't know what you want to look like. You have to give me a template to work with. And then you have to be very realistic with them. Well, naturally, you have a flat ass. Sorry, you're not a C cup, you're an A cup.
Yeah, genetics.
You have narrow shoulders. But we can work around that. But you have to understand that it's not going to be as easy for you. You have to be very truthful with them. trainers that have their, like you say, the ones that have their trainings long and you don't see results, they're after retention and they're after them paying money. I mean, come on, everyone has to make a living.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
understand. But you have to have some kind of integrity to your craft. And one way of maintaining integrity to your craft, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, a marketing person, is to constantly educate yourself. Read, learn, apply, admit if you're wrong. Don't just say, I'm the shit and I know everything. I'm the shit. And I can give you like 6 to 10, I don't want to name names, but there are a lot of people there who train a lot of people who get by with swag, bullshit, and Instagram likes. Which really doesn't work for me.
When we encourage people to go, when people go to the gym, when they ask me about my training program, I usually tell them to talk to Doc J first. They have to talk to the trainer, right? For one reason is they got to know what we're up against. Like what he said earlier, you got to have a clear goal. For me, it was simple. I won't tell.
Xena Warrior Princess.
Besides Xena the Warrior Princess,
I can't give you a vagina. Sorry.
I'll give him that since I gave him the ballerina thing last week. Okay, all right. No, I was very clear. I went to Doc J, said like I want to look like this, and fortunately, what I picked is built for my body. You know what I mean? I didn't show him a picture of freaking Xena, 300. Or let's say. Who else? Like
Justin Bieber.
Or something that's impossible, right? So because I know for a fact that if I could look like this, I don't give him an impossible task.
Okay.
So me showing a picture of, let's say, King Leonidas, it's not going to work for my body. I'm never going to be that.
It's interesting that he mentioned this because I was listening to a podcast several months ago with this guy named Brian Callen, and he had this guest on. His name is David Epstein, who wrote the Athlete Code or something like that, or Athlete Gene or something like that.
Okay.
Any case, what he was talking about was he basically went on this anecdote about how he was talking to his trainer. He's like, I need to gain 10 pounds for a movie, right? Because he's an actor. And he says, his trainer says, oh, you do you? So do you know what we have to do, right? We have to change your endocrine system. Because 10 pounds of lean mass over 3 months is a lot. Give me your thoughts on how much your endocrine system plays a role in gaining and or losing.
The endocrine system dictates how, well, for one thing, how your hormones will act. How enzymes in your body move. I don't stress that point too much on the endocrine system. Certain trainers will focus on things like, let's work on your endocrine system. Some will say, let's work on your nervous system. Because the nervous system is your central control panel for everything else. Some people will work on, let's work on your mobility. Let's work on this, let's work on that. Me, honestly, your assessment will tell you what he really needs. Say I go through an assessment, and you have hypothyroidism. Oh, the game changes completely.
Oh, wow.
See?
Yeah.
See? If there's a medical... And this is what I hate. And hate. Did I say hate? I say hate. Hate with a capital H. I hate it when trainers who are not qualified try to be doctors. Try to be therapists. I don't care how many times you studied a movement screening thing. I don't care if you've studied all the rules on, let's say, I know how to administer this, that. No. Did you take the licensure exam? Did you take validation to say that you are qualified to handle a certain person with a certain medical condition? You're not a doctor. You're not an allied medical profession. No. Please be responsible. Refer them to the proper professional. I hate it when they say, no, that's just a little tweak in your this, or there's a little twinge in that. Yeah. I've seen that before, and I've read about the protocol. Let's do that. I mean, like for me, fuck you. Really, fuck you. If you are really, no, really, fuck you, because you are supposed to be one with promoting wellness, fitness, health, The rule there, the Hippocratic Oath says, first do no harm. Are you doing that? I'll play doctor. I'll do in 30 minutes what somebody took 10 years to study. Really? So that makes you qualified. Yeah. So all you listening to the bro science, cut it. I don't care how big your biceps are or how much you bench press. If you don't have the degree, okay, or the proper studies to back that up, and I mean really validated, please don't try to recommend stuff, okay? It's annoying. I don't care how many years of experience you have. And may I just say about the experience, a lot of big swaggy trainers will try to get by and say, well, I've been training people for 20 years. Yeah, you have the experience. What about the insight? Do you have the insight to really see that, oh, was I really doing it right?
Or I changed the lives of these people who trained under.
No, you're talking about insight, meaning if you did handle these people properly, did you do things in the right order? You didn't rely on bro science. You didn't rely on swag. You actually consulted with other people. Like when I handle somebody who has a clinical case, you have to talk to the doctors involved. Like when I have patients that come to me for rehab, their doctor's numbers are on my hand. And I say, for example, I'll say, okay, doc, I found, you say in your diagnosis, they have, let's say, tendinitis of the shoulder. Based on my assessment, I find it this way. But I find that the protocols you're trying to make me do for rehab, I kind of changed it a little bit. What are your thoughts? And then they either agree or disagree with you. But that's what I'm saying. You know, it's a collaborative effort. You don't wing it all by yourself and say that, okay, I know it all.
That being said, we have a friend, Mr. Jerick Reyes, who's also part of this show, and he went through several, so more than once, ACL, MCL surgeries for both knees, right? And then at one point, the doctors were telling him that the reason why he was getting that is because he was squatting, and that compromises his knee. And I just wanted to see your take on that, because for example, if a physician that the person is already working with is telling you something different from, say, what you would recommend, how do you remedy that situation?
When you're part of a rehabilitation team, a real rehabilitation team, this is how it would work. I have the physiatrist, and he makes the diagnosis. He'll tell us, what do you guys think? So we have our own ways of assessing. The physiotherapists will have their assessment tests. I will use some. Sometimes our tests overlap. And then we come to our conclusions, and then we talk. Because the rehabilitation plan,
It's a team.
It's a team effort. The doctor won't do the dirty work. He'll do the diagnosis. If the doctor could do it all, then physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech pathology, none of that would exist. But that's not how we're trained. They're trained to diagnose. They may know the protocols. They may know what to recommend, but to actually execute it, it's a different story. You know, that's why it's really, it's more work than what you think. You know, and when we talk about squatting, I'll give an example. Francis is a very good friend, Kenwa Mabi. Kenwa, hi Kenwa. I'll use
Also an American football player.
American football player. He tore all of his ligaments.
Oh, the injured guy.
Yeah, the one I was telling you about last week.
So,
Wow.
he tore all of his
Scary.
ligaments in his knee. His background is, he used to be in the national team of Karate Do.
Oh, wow.
He used to be team captain of the FEU judo team. And he's gone through a lot of sports. And, you know, he damaged his knee playing football. And basically, all I needed to see was, okay, the doctor said this. I'll base it on my experience of handling patients that have that. Let's see you go through the motions. And then, of course, at some point, you draw on your experiences of your own practice and say, well, what does he have to lose if I do this? It doesn't go against the mantra of rehabilitation. You just try to figure it out. And guess what? A month
later, he was actually squatting and deadlifting.
Wait,
He
this
was,
is after surgery though.
This was after surgery,
cool.
invasive surgery. But you have to remember, after his surgery, he actually went through similar physical therapy for about 8 months.
8 months.
But after that 8 months,
Then Doc J.
Doc J. But the reason why I got him to Doc J is because I'm not seeing any improvement. He couldn't even climb down the stairs without any pain. He can't even
This is
crawl.
the crawling guy, right?
The crawling guy. He can't crawl on his knees. So I finally meet him, and he started in this program. 3 to 4 weeks later, he was already deadlifting, squatting, climbing the stairs with no pain. Right? And he was actually crawling. Well, crawling, it's basic for us, but for a guy who tore everything in his knee,
Understood.
right? He was very happy about that. And chances are, if he keeps on continuing it, he's going to be back to what he loves to do the most, American football, by next season.
But it wasn't karate though. It wasn't judo. It was
Yeah, well,
American football that destroyed
It could be a build up to that, wear and tear without the
Yeah,
proper training.
absolutely.
And then one time it was just a bad hit, and it just
That
tore
one
everything.
bad
That's all
hit
it
there,
takes,
sir.
right? That's all it takes. And then career blown also
Career
sometimes.
ender.
Sometimes.
Yes. We actually have a lot of people in the gym that's what we call miracle people. We have people who has gout, who has high blood, everything, and right now they're
Hyperthyroidism.
well, I don't think we have anyone.
I have a hypothyroid.
That's pretty difficult to deal with. I mean,
Well,
how do you...
Just because, and I say this, just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. But you really have to do.
Yeah.
You have to give it due diligence, so to speak.
I believe that mostly because first time I was doing a front squat for Doc J. He actually loaded the plates heavier. I was looking at it and I was like,
I can't do that.
I was going like, Doc, are you? I was in the phone actually. Are you sure? Right? Are you sure I could do this? And eventually, if I didn't try it, never know. But I could actually do it. Right? So all we lose the persistence and the willingness to do it, and just listen to your trainer.
If Joe Schmo needs to practice something every day, one thing, like let it be like posture or whatever, what would it be that will help me gain tremendously from it? Like maybe a postural thing or a imbalance thing. Is there any one thing that I can do every day?
I wouldn't say one thing, but it would be a series of
Mobility
drills,
work?
mobility work. A very useful thing that I see is learning how to stay in a squatted position for a certain period of time.
Hindu squats.
Yeah, you lose the ability to go deep. That's it with the squat, so to speak.
Doc J, we usually ask this to our guests. How can you teach them how to burn fat, boost focus, and be better? First, burn fat. What's the best way for you?
Me?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one thing.
Doesn't have to be one thing.
Okay. Eat clean, move a lot. That's it.
Makes
Eat
sense.
clean,
Makes sense.
move a lot,
Makes
and
sense.
sleep well. That's it. Follow those 3 to a T. You will lose weight.
Boost focus, be better. Thank you very much, Doc J. Love
Thank you,
having
thank
you
you,
here.
Doc. Such
Thank
an
you again,
educational-
Francis, for
Pleasure being here, Edmund.
and
Francis, thank
introducing
you.
us to your doctor.
Well, I'd like to invite everyone, just in case you guys want to have a talk and an assessment with Doc J. We are at RX Strength in Shaw in the Summit Building, 21st floor. You could also get in contact with him through Facebook. His Facebook is J Lopez, or get in contact with me. All right, my number is, if you guys can rewind this later, it's 0917.
Oh, you really want to give your number here?
Yeah, that's fine. It's an office number.
All right, cool.
All right, fine. As usual, Edmund's correct. I won't give my number here. All right, so just go to Facebook. You could find my name, Francis Magbitang, or J Lopez, or the RX Strength page. You could like it in the Facebook like RX Strength. And you could send us a message through there. What's going to happen is you leave your number, we're going to get back at you, and we're going to set an interview for you to see your entire assessment phase. And
But better to come and see us in person.
Yes, definitely.
We get too many inquiries with people who don't show up. So for me, if you're really serious about it, you will show up.
yeah, and it's better if we could see you in person, because we could, like you said earlier, see you overall, see
And
how you
bring the
move.
picture that you want to look like.
Yeah, bring the
yeah.
picture how you look like.
Well, if you don't have the picture, just be very specific in the description,
Just don't bring a picture of Edmund. So,
All right, that's our show for the day. Apex Apes, out of your life.
Shazam!
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the New Media Factory. Some programs on this network might include strong images and language and may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.